Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Hope you are having a great day today. Today, what I thought we would talk about on Get Live with Dracaena Wines is the importance of canopy training. It is a super critical aspect to producing quality wine and something that is kind of often overlooked when people talk about the winemaking process. So I figured, hey, let's do that today. So during the growing season, right, there's two important zones of the vine that we need to pay attention to. So there's canopy management and then there's fruit zone management. So the canopy management is what we talk about when we are trying to create a vine in balance. So every plant has the two stages of growth, right? We have the vegetative state and we have the reproductive state. So the vegetative state is all of that green stuff that's going on the plant. And then the reproductive state is what it's going to use to reproduce. Because remember, every living thing, right, it wants to continue to the next generation. So reproduction is extremely important. And in the grapevine, the berries are the fruit, right? That is the reproductive state. That's where the seeds are so that we can create more vines. So what we want to do is to make sure that our vineyards are nice and perfectly in balance, right? So we want to make sure that green state is in balance along with the reproductive state. Now, it doesn't just start when the vines are growing in that season, in that vintage. So the balance actually doesn't begin just in the spring. It started a long, long time ago when those vines were first planted into the ground. So to maintain the ideal balance, right, the vineyard manager needs to make sure that they chose the correct site. They chose the correct variety for that site. They chose the correct rootstock, the training system, and proper vine spacing. So all of this is done before we even can produce any fruit that we're going to use to make wine out of. So, so the soil in which the vines are planted plays a major role in the balance. Fertile soils that retain water will lend themselves to increasing vigor of the vine, right? So this is not beneficial when we want to create a quality wine. It has been shown that vines under stress will use their energy sparingly, and what they're going to do, and instead of placing their energy into the green aspect of it, the vegetative state, they're going to put that energy into the ripening of the fruit. So it's imperative that we pay attention to that. So the management of the vines is dependent on the desired outcome of the wine. So we're going to plant Cabernet Franc in a different location, and we're going to train it differently than if we were, saying, growing Zinfandel. So the consideration of the wine style, the price point, these are things that we needed to take into consideration when the vines were initially being planted and how we're going to go about managing them during the growing season. If all of that is done correctly, then during that growing season, little intervention is required and we're going to get some great results. So canopy management can be broken down into 5 basic categories. We start off with the pruning, then we have shoot thinning, sucker removal, shoot positioning, and leaf removal. Okay, so pruning, I've done videos on that in the past, right? Pruning is performed while the vines are dormant, and they are going to set the stage for that upcoming growing season. It is extremely important to do pruning and to do it correctly because it is going to be the first thing that we do each vintage that's going to help guide it to that vine's health and balance. So it sets the tone for the number and the distribution of the shoots, the length of the cane, the distribution of the clusters, all of this, the amount of clusters, all of this come in from the pruning. Right? And then we can prune either cane or spur. So if you're interested in that, check out my other video about pruning. So after we prune, we are going to do shoot thinning. So shoot thinning is done in order to adjust the shoot numbers and their distribution, right? So what we're really paying attention to is that density of the leaf area. So shoot thinning is going to be done after bud break, and it's going to help to regulate crop size, right? So we're going to position those shoots so that the canopy is exactly what we want it to be. We want just enough shade to cover the fruit that it is protected by sunburn, but not too many layers that it doesn't get the sun that it needs. Okay? Because if it's not done at the proper time, if it's not done, then we can have issues with disease. If it gets wet in there, we can have mildew or mold growing. Okay, so we want to take these shoots and we want to put them in the correct place so that we get the proper sunlight, okay, and wind being able to go through it. So usually it's done through wire movement, and this can be done, but it needs to be done at the proper time, because if I move those wires too soon, the little shoots that are growing are going to just come off of the wire. And if I do it too late, then I'm really kind of manipulating that shoot, and it can lead to breakage. Once I have the shoots where I want them to be, they just get tied down with either wire or plastic clips. So as I said, now we're going to take that leaf removal and we're going to make sure that we are giving the proper sun, because that sun is going to add to the flavors, the aromatics, and is going to be able to break down those methoxypyrazines that are causing that bell pepper, which we personally do not like in our Cab Franc. Okay, so additionally, management can include lateral removal when there is a high concern for sunburn. Then we're going to leave that top part intact, and we're going to move from the lower interior leaves. And this is really, really time consuming, but if the vine is excessively vigorous, then that's something that we're going to have to do. Okay. And then, so just, we want to talk about the canopy management altogether. Oop. I'm trying to stop. There we go. Okay, so canopy management altogether, it's not just one and done activity, right? It started before the vines were planted by choosing the soil. And then the practices can be repeated during the growing season. So it's not unheard of to do a leaf thinning maybe 3 times during the season, right? Early, mid, and late, right? Because things happen. So the best laid plans may need to be altered depending on rainfall, frost, wind damage, insects, or disease, right? All these things happen, and then we need to change our plan of what we're doing with that canopy measurement in order to allow for the best fruit possible. Like I said, all about vine balance. So I hope that this cleared something up about vine balance and what we mean. Remember the 2 stages, vegetative and reproductive. We want the vine's energy to go towards that reproductive stage. We want the berries, but we are going to have to deal with that canopy to make sure that we don't have too many clusters, right? A vine only has X amount of energy, and if I have 100 clusters on it, it's going to divvy up its energy to those 100 clusters. If I only have 2 clusters, now those 2 clusters are getting all of the energy that we need to create excellent wine. So please leave me a comment to let me know what you think about canopy management, and if there is any other topic you would like me to cover in a future live. And I hope that you have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Sláinte.